My boss, Daniel, leaned back in his plush office chair, that smug grin still etched on his face. Listen, Sarah, you're exceptional at your job. No one's questioning that. But Laura, she's got a knack for connecting with people. She brings a spark to the workplace. You're just too driven by outcomes. The phrase driven by outcomes rang in my ears as I sat there, my hands tightening around the chair's armrests. 5 years I'd poured into this company. 5 years of early mornings, late evenings, and weekends surrendered to work. I'd personally secured our largest accounts, optimized our processes, and boosted our team's productivity by 40%. Yet here I was, overlooked for a promotion because I was too focused on outcomes. My name is Sarah Lynn, and at 32, I'd learned the harsh truth that corporate success often hinges not on merit, but on mastering the art of office politics, knowing whose ego to flatter or whose coffee to grab. Laura excelled at that game. In just 2 years, she'd perfected the skill of claiming others' achievements while contributing little herself. I watched as Daniel rearranged some documents on his desk, likely expecting me to crumble or argue. I didn't. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a crisp envelope. "I understand," I said, sliding it across his desk, "and I appreciate your honesty. Here's my resignation letter. My last day will be in 2 weeks." Daniel's confident smirk wavered. Clearly, this wasn't the response he'd anticipated. "Now, Sarah, let's not rush into things just because you missed out on the promotion," he stammered. "It's not rushed," I replied, my voice calm but resolute. "I've thought this through, and you're right. I am driven by outcomes. That's why I'm seeking opportunities where that trait is appreciated." What Daniel didn't know, what no one at the company knew, was that I hadn't spent the last 5 years solely on their projects. In my own time, I'd been crafting something groundbreaking, something that would expose Daniel's decision for the misstep it was. As I left his office, I felt my colleagues' eyes on me. Gossip spread quickly in our department, and Laura was likely already envisioning how she'd rearrange my workspace. I kept my composure as I returned to my desk, thinking of the second document tucked inside that resignation letter, the one that would make Daniel realize the magnitude of his error. The next 2 weeks unfolded as expected. Laura strutted around the office like she'd already claimed her throne, making a show of settling into her new role. She'd occasionally stop by my desk, her voice laced with crocodile tears. "Sarah, I hope you're not upset," she said one morning, leaning against my desk. "I know you really wanted this promotion." I glanced up from my computer, where I was carefully saving copies of my work files, not to take them as I had too much integrity for that, but to document everything I'd contributed. "No hard feelings, Laura," I said with a smile. "I'm sure you'll excel." She grinned, probably thinking I'd conceded defeat. She had no clue. For the past 3 years, I'd been quietly developing an innovative workflow platform. It began as a tool to manage my own tasks, but grew into something far more powerful. I'd tested it, refined it, and used it to deliver the very outcomes Daniel found so inconvenient. With my resignation, I'd included a detailed report outlining how my platform had saved the company significant time and money. The clincher: I'd filed for a patent on it 6 months earlier, and it had been granted the previous week. But that wasn't even the best part. A week into my notice period, I received an email from Michael Wu, no relation, the CEO of our top competitor. He'd heard I was leaving and wanted to meet for coffee. I smiled when I saw his name in my inbox. Everything was aligning perfectly. The meeting with Michael exceeded my expectations. He'd been tracking my work for months, impressed by how I'd transformed client relationships and streamlined operations. He didn't just offer me a job. He proposed a partnership role with full creative control over implementing my platform across his company. "We've been searching for someone like you, Sarah," he said, sliding a contract across the table. "Someone who prioritizes outcomes. The salary is 3 times your current pay plus company equity." I accepted the contract, my hands steady despite my pounding heart. This was what it felt like to be valued. On my final day, as I turned in my badge, Daniel called me into his office one last time. The smug grin was gone, replaced by a look of near panic. "Sarah, we need to discuss this report you included with your resignation," he said, holding up the papers with trembling hands. "Why didn't you tell us about this platform sooner?" I sat down, smoothing my blouse. "I tried, Daniel. 3 times last year I requested meetings to discuss new efficiency tools. You said we should prioritize team synergy instead." His face paled as he scanned the report. "But it's game-changing. The savings alone, and you've already patented it?" I nodded, savoring the crack in his voice. "I have." And I've accepted a position with Woo Enterprises. They're eager to roll out my platform across their organization. Daniel slumped in his chair, the weight of his mistake sinking in. Woo Enterprises, our biggest rival. Sarah, you can't, he stammered. What about loyalty to the company? Loyalty, I let out a soft laugh. Like the loyalty you showed when you promoted Laura or when you dismissed my ideas because I wasn't collaborative enough. I stood, adjusting my coat. The irony, Daniel, is that if you'd looked beyond your assumptions, if you'd valued the outcomes I delivered instead of who brought you coffee or laughed at your quips, this wouldn't be happening. But you didn't. And now Woo Enterprises has an edge you can't compete with. We'll match their offer, he blurted, desperation in his tone. We'll make you a director, just don't go to Woo. I shook my head, almost feeling sorry for him. It's not about money or titles, Daniel. It's about respect. It's about valuing contributions, and you've shown where you stand. As I left his office for the last time, I heard him scrambling to call the leadership team, likely trying to mitigate the fallout. But it was too late. The patent was mine, the new role was secured, and Laura would soon discover that claiming others' work only carries you so far when results are demanded. That evening, as I cleared out my desk, I found a note from Laura on my monitor, written in her elegant handwriting. Sorry you're leaving. Stay in touch. I smiled, crumpling it and tossing it into the bin. Oh, she'd hear about me soon enough. The entire industry would. My first day at Woo Enterprises felt like entering a new realm. Instead of a cramped cubicle, I had a spacious corner office with panoramic windows. A polished nameplate read, Sarah Lynn, Director of Strategy and Innovation. But the real difference wasn't the office or title, it was how people treated me. Michael Woo called a company-wide meeting to introduce me. Standing before the crowded room, he didn't just announce my role. He highlighted my accomplishments, explained the value of my platform, and made it clear I had full authority to drive change. Sarah isn't just joining us, he said, his voice resonating. She's bringing a transformative approach to workflow management that will redefine our operations. I expect everyone's full support. The contrast to my old company was striking. There, I'd been the silent workhorse, delivering results without recognition. Here, I was celebrated for the very thing Daniel had criticized, my focus on outcomes. The true satisfaction came 3 months later. During a team meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from my former colleague, James. Check the industry news. Big story about Pinnacle Inc. Pinnacle Inc., my old company. I excused myself and pulled up the news site on my laptop. The headline stopped me cold. Pinnacle Inc. plummets 30% amid catastrophic quarter. The article described how Pinnacle had lost 3 key clients, with others threatening to leave. Projects were delayed, costs were spiraling, and efficiency metrics had hit rock bottom. Their stock was in freefall. One quote stood out from a major former client, Elizabeth Carter. Pinnacle's service quality has tanked in recent months. Projects that once ran seamlessly are now chaotic. It's as if their entire operational framework collapsed. I smiled. Those seamless projects, they'd been managed with my platform. The framework they'd lost, that was the structure I'd built over 5 years, which Daniel never bothered to understand. Another text from James arrived. Laura's imploding. She can't handle the workload, and Daniel's realizing she's out of her depth. I set my phone down, reflecting on the irony. Laura, who'd coasted on others' work for 2 years, was now forced to deliver on her own. And Daniel, who'd valued charisma over capability, was watching his department collapse. But I had bigger priorities. At Woo Enterprises, my platform was already yielding stunning results. Project timelines were halved, client satisfaction soared, and efficiency metrics were unprecedented. Michael had greenlit my plan to expand the platform company-wide, and we were negotiating with major clients to license the technology. 6 months after leaving Pinnacle, I walked into my office to find Michael waiting, holding a newspaper. Seen this? He asked, showing me the headline, Pinnacle Inc. CEO resigns amid ongoing turmoil. I nodded. I heard they're restructuring. Michael watched me closely. Their board finally saw how badly they mishandled their talent. They tried replicating your platform, but without the core framework, it failed. I finished his thought. It's not just the software or processes. It's about understanding how everything connects. Michael grinned, knowing exactly what he had in me. Which is why the board unanimously voted to promote you to executive vice president next week. Your impact in 6 months has been undeniable, and they want more. Warmth spread through me. This was what it felt like to be truly valued. Later that day, an unexpected email arrived from Daniel. Sarah, I hope you're doing well. You've likely heard about Pinnacle's struggles. I want to admit I made a grave error in not recognizing your worth. Your platform was the foundation of our success, and we didn't see it until it was gone. I'm no longer with Pinnacle. The board requested my resignation. Before I left, I ensured they knew this could have been avoided if we'd listened to you. Laura left a month ago. Managing real projects proved too much for her. I know it's too late, but you were right. Outcomes matter. I wish I'd realized that sooner. Best, Daniel. I read it twice, letting it sink in. Once, this validation would have meant the world. Now, in my executive office at Wu Enterprises, preparing for a board meeting where my ideas would be championed. It felt like a minor note in a story I'd already outgrown. I typed a brief reply. Daniel, thank you for your message. You're right. Outcomes matter. I wish you well in your next chapter. Best, Sarah. As I sent it, my eyes drifted to the framed patent certificate on my wall, next to a plaque celebrating our record-breaking quarter and an article naming me an industry trailblazer. I thought back to that day in Daniel's office when he'd said I was too driven by outcomes. That critique had become the greatest praise he could have offered. Here, with my new team, those outcomes were reshaping the industry. The next morning, I led a team meeting. Looking at the attentive faces, people who respected me, valued my insights, and were eager to learn, I felt profound fulfillment. Today, I began, we'll discuss our next major initiative. But first, let me share a story about recognizing worth, not just in systems, but in people. As I spoke, I saw comprehension in their eyes. They understood that success isn't just about playing politics or being a team player. It's about delivering value and standing by your principles. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about settling scores. It's about forging ahead, creating something greater than what you left behind. Daniel, Laura, and Pinnacle Inc. had taught me that, even if unintentionally. Driving home that evening, I passed Pinnacle's building. Its once imposing logo now looked faded, a for lease sign in the window signaling their downsizing. I felt no glee at their decline, only gratitude. Gratitude that they'd underestimated me, pushed me away, and forced me to prove my worth, not just to them, but to myself. My phone buzzed. Another text from James. Pinnacle's board is asking about you. They're wondering if you'd consider returning as CEO. I smiled, replying, thanks, but I'm right where I belong. And I was. Success isn't just about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about standing firm in your convictions, even when doubted. It's about knowing your value and refusing to settle. As I pulled into my driveway, I thought of others like me, talented people overlooked for being too focused on outcomes. Maybe my story would inspire them to hold their ground, believe in their worth, and seize their own opportunities. After all, sometimes the best way to handle rejection is to transform it into fuel, to use it to build something better, stronger, something that shows the world what they missed out on. As I sat at my home office, reviewing proposals to expand our platform globally, I smiled. Daniel had been right about one thing. I was too driven by outcomes, and that drive had led me exactly where I was meant to be.